Imagine the birth of your first child. At the hospital, the doctor enters your room and congratulates you, adding that all the preliminary tests went fine.
It's a bouncing baby boy, yet another soldier in the fight against communism.
Smiling reassuringly, he starts walking towards the door. However, before exiting the room, he turns around and says, "There is just one thing. From this moment forth and for the rest of your child's entire life, he will repeatedly and routinely lapse into a state of apparent coma. It might even resemble death at times. And while his body lies still, his mind will often be filled with stunning, bizarre hallucinations. This state will consume 1/3 of his life, and I have absolutely no idea why and what it is for. Good luck." There are three main biological drives that we were able to give a coherent answer to why we need it: to eat, to drink, and to reproduce. Yet the fourth main biological drive, common across the entire animal kingdom, the drive to sleep, has continued to elude science for millennia. From an evolutionary standpoint, so it seems, sleep appears to be the most foolish of biological phenomena. You cannot gather food, not socialize, not reproduce, protect your offspring, and you're vulnerable to predators. There must be tremendous benefits to it that far outweighed all of the obvious hazards and detriments. Sleep was able to become an integral part of all animal life. It turns out that there isn't one major organ within the body or process within the brain that isn't enhanced by sleep. Unsurprisingly, there isn't just one function of sleep. We sleep for a rich litany of functions, and sleep is more health relevant than you could ever imagine. Ironically, this coma-like state is Mother Nature's best effort yet at contra death. There are different kinds of sleep: rapid eye movement sleep, or in short REM, and its counterpart, non-rapid eye movement sleep, or in short NREM. Here is the architecture of sleep as given in the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, PhD. You can see that there are 5 cycles of sleep, starting with REM sleep and going deeper into non-REM sleep through stages. One thing is outstanding though: the closer we get to the morning hours, the ratio of non-REM sleep to REM sleep shifts, now favoring REM sleep much more. There is no scientific consensus as to why the sleep pattern is this asymmetric. Matthew Walker gives us his own theory and tries to illustrate it with this analogy. Consider the creation of a piece of sculpture from a block of clay. It starts with placing a large amount of raw material onto a pedestal. Next comes an initial and extensive removal of all superfluous matter, after which brief intensifications of early details can be made. It's the same for when we sleep. We start with a mass of stored autobiographical memories, new and old, offered up to sleep each night. During non-REM phases, the brain gets rid of overlapping, redundant, or simply no longer relevant information, as the key function of deep non-REM sleep is to weed out and remove unnecessary neural connections. In contrast, the dreaming stage of REM sleep plays a huge role in strengthening those connections, in making us memorize learned information, and in helping to make sense of the world. With only the important clay remaining, Dr. Walker says, the work of the sculpture and the tools required must shift towards the goal of strengthening the elements and enhancing features of what which remains. In this way, sleep may elegantly manage and solve our memory storage crisis, with the general excavatory force of non-REM sleep dominating early, after which the etching hand of REM sleep blends, interconnects, and adds details. The weight of sleep deprivation takes its toll on every aspect of health. The evolutionary ancient fight-or-flight stress response, induced by the sympathetic nervous system, and which is normally only deployed for short periods of time, can become deeply maladaptive if stuck in on mode for longer. Almost every experiment that has investigated the impact of sleep deprivation on the human body has observed an overactive sympathetic nervous system for as long as the state of insufficient sleep lasts. This will trigger a domino effect of health damage, starting with the heart, leading to all kinds of coronary disease and problems. increased blood pressure, heart attack or failure, and stroke can follow. In the Northern Hemisphere, the switch to daylight savings results in most people losing an hour of sleep opportunity for one night. Should you tabulate millions of daily hospital records, as researchers have done, you discover that this seemingly trivial sleep reduction of just 1 hour during just one night comes with a frightening spike in heart attacks the following day. It works both ways. In autumn, when we gain 1 more hour of sleep, rates of heart attacks plummet the day after. Can sleep deprivation make you even more unhealthy, or God forbid, even fat? It seems the answer to this question is yes. Scientists conducted an experiment with healthy adults that had no existing sign of diabetes or issues with blood sugar, in which they limited their sleep to 4 to 5 hours a night for just 6 nights. By the end of the week, the participants were 40% less effective at absorbing a standard dose of glucose. If those results were given to an unwitting doctor, it would immediately get classified as pre-diabetes, and they would start a rapid intervention program to prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. The cells of these tired individuals in the experiment had become far less responsive to insulin. Dr. Eve Van Cotter at the University of Chicago conducted research on the link between sleep and appetite, and she discovered that individuals were far more ravenous when sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night. Inadequate sleep, so she found, decreased concentrations of the satiety signaling hormone leptin and increased levels of the hunger instigating hormone ghrelin. It's like getting punished twice for the same offense of short sleeping. In a study conducted by Professor Matthew Walker, in which he compares the food choices sleep-deprived people take, he states, "We discovered that supervisory regions of the prefrontal cortex, required for thoughtful judgments and controlled decisions, had been silenced in their activity by a lack of sleep. In contrast, the more primal deep brain structures that drive motivation and desire were amplified. The shift to a more primitive pattern of brain activity came with a change in the participants' food choices. High-calorie foods became significantly more desirable. Not forgetting that correlation doesn't equal causation, it is still alarming to see the connection between lower sleep amounts and the rise of obesity in the last decades. Now, take a group of lean, healthy young males in their mid-20s and limit their sleep to 5 hours a night. You will find a marked drop in testosterone relative to their baseline levels when fully rested, which effectively ages the man by 10 to 15 years in terms of testosterone virility. Men are not the only ones who become reproductively compromised by a lack of sleep. Routinely sleeping less than 6 hours reduced follicular releasing hormone in women, a critical element for ovulation and conception. Women who are pregnant and routinely sleep less than 8 hours a night are significantly more likely to suffer a miscarriage in the first trimester. Dr. Michael Irwin at the University of California, Los Angeles, has performed landmark studies revealing just how quickly and comprehensively a brief dose of short sleep can affect your cancer-fighting immune cells. He found that the single night of 4 hours of sleep swept away 70% of natural killer cells circulating in the immune system, which normally target and kill tumor cells in the body. Epidemiological studies have reported that nighttime shift work and the disruption of circadian rhythms and sleep that it causes up our odds of developing numerous different forms of cancer considerably. That is why the World Health Organization has officially classified nighttime shift work as probable carcinogen. If those detrimental consequences weren't sufficiently disquieting, chronic sleep loss will erode the very essence of biological life itself, your genetic code. Dr. Dirk Jan Dijk and his prolific team examined gene expressions in a group of healthy young men and women after having restricted them to 6 hours of sleep at night for 1 week. A hefty 711 genes were distorted. Approximately half of them have been abnormally revved up, which are linked to chronic inflammation, cellular stress, and cardiovascular disease, while the other half had been diminished in their expression, which normally help to stabilize metabolism and induce an optimal immune response. There is a lot more to say about sleep, but to keep it short, if optimal health and daily functioning is one of your goals in life, you should maybe consider throwing your alarm clock out of the window, or at least have an occasional nap when feeling tired during the day. Peace!